Welcome back, colleagues, to the second part of my video presentation. Thank you again for watching the first part of this video presentation. And just as a brief recap, remember we spent a large amount of time talking about the three generations that are currently in adult education classrooms, and those are the baby boomers, the Generation Xers, and then our youngest generation, the millennials. In this particular portion, I'm going to take the experiences, the shared and common experiences that these generational groups had together and apply them to and talk about learning characteristics. And what I'm going to use as a basis is the work that Knowles did. We're going to talk about three particular characteristics: readiness to learn, orientation to learning, and motivation to learn. And we're going to really actually talk about the three different generations and compare and contrast along those three characteristics. Okay, the first of these that we're going to talk about is readiness to learn. And Malcolm Knowles defined this characteristic that provided as the fact that adult learners experience a need to learn in order to cope more satisfyingly with real life tasks or problems. So to paraphrase, they really have to have that connection with their experiences and what they're learning. And quite simply put, this is because they've had quite a great deal of experiences. So as far as the baby boomers, what the research found is generally they're interested in their courses that contribute to personal growth and introspection. They've had this wealth of knowledge of experiences. They have no problem participating in the classroom, and now they're ready to go deeper. They're really ready to make sense of this huge range of experiences that they have in their past. The younger baby boomers might actually be looking at starting part-time work in different, less demanding fields, simply because once again they've had this great experience, wealth of experience in a particular single career field, so they're ready to start something new, but not something that they're going to need to do a lot of education about. They're not going to start from scratch. So they're going to pick perhaps a part-time career or a hobby or a leisure time activity that they enjoy and are passionate about. So they're going to make educational choices based on that. So their readiness to learn is going to be largely driven by that. For our Gen Xers, remember they're kind of in their midlife careers, and so they're starting to build up. And for the older Gen Xers, also have a wealth of experiences under their belt. So they're actually also going to be ready to learn, in particular in areas that will help them advance their careers. They're once again right in the middle, or maybe even just starting out in the careers if they've spent more time in education and have done doctoral graduate level work. So they're going to make educational choices that are going to line up with that. And remember this concept of portability and their experiences of growing up with latchkey kids. So they're going to be ready to learn about these new career fields. For millennials currently in adult education settings, they might have initial issues with the adult education format. They are used to pedagogical techniques where it's largely lecture-based. In their higher series classes, undergraduate classes, they might have been exposed to the seminar format, but they're still kind of feeling their way as in the adult education classroom. And they're still kind of weaning themselves out of that lecture format. So as far as ready to learn, coupled with the fact that they have a small bank of experiences, relatively speaking, to the other two generational groups, they're probably the less mature and less ready to learn at this point in a more open adult seminar learner-based format. Okay, the next learning characteristic is orientation to learning, and Malcolm Knowles defines this or characterizes this particular adult learning assumption as adults are life, mission, or problem centered in the route to learning versus subject centered. So they're actually seeking to go deeper. They're not, adult learners are not necessarily tied to the subject matter at face value. Baby boomers easily translate material in the classroom to their vast amount of experiences. As mentioned earlier, they enjoy calling on their experiences to illustrate a particular concept. They relish the discovery of new insights. In short, baby boomers love to learn. They are very oriented to learning, and they're very excited about this whole discovery of new material. Generation Xers could translate material to their sizable amount of experiences. However, they are still in the stage of building and making connections in their lives. Remember, they're 26 to 46 years old. So they're still just, some of these younger Gen Xers are just starting out in their work and their family lives. So they're still largely subject centered. They're developing in their careers. Some of the older Gen Xers might be transitioning to this problem centered self discovery, life or mission centered learning, and will be more mature as adult learners in the classroom. Adult millennials, those millennials that are 18 to 25 years old, are just now transitioning out of subject-centered learning. Remember, I talked about this earlier when we talked about the previous learning characteristics. And again, they're starting to build their experience base as adults. If the instructor does not help these millennials make that connection and introduce them to this learner-centered format, they are going to become bored very easily and uninterested in the material. Once again, used to the lecture format, very subject-centered at this point. Key in this case, as well as with the Gen Xers, instructors must make these connections and quickly bridge the experience learning gap for these young millennials and younger millennials and the younger Gen Xers. The third characteristic is motivation to learn. And the way that Malcolm Knowles defines this characteristic is while motivation to learn may sometimes be external for adults, it is more often associated as being internal for adult learners. Okay, again, the baby boomers, as mentioned in the previous slide, are at a stage in their lives where they choose learning opportunities based on personal interest. They're very internally motivated in this case. Gen Xers are generally motivated by their need to maintain portability. They're still very externally motivated. Remember the pessimistic, the survival instinct of these Gen Xers. So survivability is still very high on their list of motivational factors for learning. They're still in the early to mid phase of their work and family life, so they're going to make choices that are going to help them succeed in their jobs so that they can, or jobs, remember, so that they can take care of their families. However, because of the high value they place on their leisure time, they're also this is where the Gen Xers are internally motivated to select learning opportunities just out of sheer enjoyment. Adult millennials are just entering the adult education classroom again, so this is going to highly influence the fact that they're still largely externally motivated. They want to, they make selections, learning selections based on opportunities that will prepare them for a successful career and a successful family life. This ends the second video of the presentation. The third video, I'm going to take this all and kind of summarize that into a discussion on implications for education and conclude with some remarks.